Today, on the Word Preacher Podcast, a brazen serpent, a fallible prophet and a talking donkey, and a fallible prophet and a devouring world. I'm Brett Jensen, and this is the Word Preacher Podcast. All right, our Come Follow Me curriculum for this coming week will bring us to the book of Numbers. Now, the Come Follow Me curriculum will have us look at a few chapters, but there's no other coverage for the other chapters. So I'm kind of taking a broad approach, and we're going to look at some of my favorite parts of the book of Numbers. You should absolutely read the whole thing. Excellent stuff in there. Let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of reading in Numbers 21, verses 6 through 9, which reads, "And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, We have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that he take away the serpents from among us. And Moses prayed for the people. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. And it shall come to pass that every one that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. And Moses made a serpent of brass, and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived." All right, so there's some more detail that is involved in this story that we get from the Book of Mormon, which is worth noting. The Book of Mormon clarifies that there existed people who refused to look at the brazen serpent because it was a simple thing. It was too easy to possibly cure a disease, so they wouldn't even do it. And they died. I think that additionally, whether you have that clarification or not, the symbolism of looking to God and living, it's fundamental to what happened. Based on this, the medical symbol with a snake wrapped around a pole, it's based on this story. It's based on this imagery of the brazen serpent to which people could look to and be healed. Now, some people might be upset that God seemed to be providing a solution to a problem that he created. He sent these serpents among the people, and then they have to go to him for a solution. But I think the people understood that it was more than that. They sinned against God first. And another lesson that we can get is that, you know what? Sometimes God does send difficult things our way. We have trials that he could prevent us from having to endure, but doesn't. We have difficult things that we have to deal with as a part of mortal life. Tragedy comes. Sadness, depression, these things will occur in life. But the key is that God hasn't left us alone. If we go to him, he will always provide a way to overcome whatever difficulties we face. And in overcoming these difficulties, people become stronger. And if we think about this in context of Israel, it was vital. I mean, they were a nation of a bunch of slaves. They were used to submitting to those who were culturally or socially above them. They were just brick makers. But they needed to be something more. They needed to be a people who could have confidence that the Lord could make things right if they were going to successfully invade Canaan. This is an attitude, and we're not going to go into it in super detail, but this is an attitude that was a problem. Moses sends spies to look at the land of Canaan, and they come back with not positive reports. They did not have confidence. This was not going to work. And the Lord took the time that was necessary to give them the experience going through difficult things so that they could understand when they look to God, they become stronger, wiser, and more faithful. So the next question that I think is absolutely fascinating is the end result. What ended up happening to the brazen serpent? Moses makes it, sticks it on a pole. They, I assume carried it around for a long time. And we do get one little instance that gives us the end of the brass serpent story. It's in 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 4. If you kind of read around that section, you get a little bit of the context. Hezekiah was the son of Ahaz, who was one of the worst idolaters. He worshipped literally anything. If you had any kind of religious affinity, he was willing to bow down and worship that, except for the Lord. He was no good. And so it was really miraculous that Hezekiah was able to come and realize, hey, we need to follow the Lord. And he went through and broke down all the things that people were worshiping as false idols, including there were people who were sacrificing and burning incense to the brass serpent. And so he had to get rid of it. It became something other than what God intended. People have begun to put value in the thing instead of the Lord, who was the one who healed those who looked at it. And, there are lessons about missing the mark. There are also lessons about how God uses real items and events that actually occurred to teach people about bigger ideas. Jesus used parables and experiences that, just chance happened, whether it was fishers or his mother and his brethren have come to visit with him. He'll use anything to try to help people focus on what is most important. You can see the same pattern in the way that he guides his church, whether it's a policy change or a name emphasis or a program alteration. Don't get hung up on insignificant details and miss the Messiah. All right. Speaking of missing things, let's move on to talking about a fallible prophet and a talking donkey. Now, the situation, the background of this story, Balaam and his talking donkey. The king of Moab, Balak, the son of Zippor, was really concerned about this growing group of Israelites wandering around in the deserts. And they're coming up north. And he's worried that they're going to overcome him. So he knows that there's a prophet of the Lord. He recognizes that this guy, Balaam, who is a prophet of the Lord, and whoever he blesses gets blessed, and whoever he curses gets cursed. So he puts stock in this prophet of the Lord and offers him some money if he will come and curse Israel for him. Now, initially his response is, no, I'm not going to do it. Go away. But Balak sent more honorable people, bigger cultural or higher status individuals with more money. And Balaam said, it doesn't even matter if you had a whole building full of silver and gold. I can't do anything that the Lord doesn't want me to do. But maybe if you stay the night, I'll keep asking him and see if we can't get him to change his mind. So Balaam continues to ask the Lord, and then the Lord says, all right, if you go ahead and go, but only to say what I'm going to have you say. So Balaam starts out, but the Lord knows what's in his heart. And he sends an angel with a drawn sword to destroy Balaam, to stop him. Because he's been very clear with Balaam that he intends for Israel to be favored. They are not to be cursed. He has chosen them based on covenants he swore generations previous. So he's riding his donkey out to follow these people. And the donkey sees the angel, but Balaam doesn't. And he walks off the path, crushes Balaam's foot against the wall, falls down, and he gets just incensed with this disobedient animal. He's not responding. So he starts beating the donkey. And this is where our story, this is where we're going to go into some reading. Numbers 22, starting in verse 27. And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she fell down under Balaam. And Balaam's anger was kindled, and he smote the ass with a staff. And the Lord opened the mouth of the ass, and she said unto Balaam, What have I done unto thee, that thou hast smitten me these 3 times? And Balaam said unto the ass, Because thou hast mocked me, I would there were a sword in mine hand, for now would I kill thee. And the ass said unto Balaam, Am I not thine ass upon which thou hast ridden ever since I was thine unto this day? Was I ever wont to do so unto thee? And he said, Nay. Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand. And he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, Wherefore hast thou smitten thine ass these 3 times? Behold, I went out to withstand thee, because thy way is perverse before me. And the ass saw me, and turned from me these 3 times. Unless she had turned from me, surely now also I had slain thee, and saved her alive. All right. So there's our situation. Animal gains the power to talk. Balaam understands he's in the wrong. And a lot of people look at this story and say, talking donkey, Old Testament, we'll just forget about it. It's probably not real. I think God is absolutely capable of making this happen. I don't think that's too hard for the Lord to do. And I think that there are a lot of other things that ring true about this story. Balaam kind of knows what he's supposed to do, but deep in his heart, he just can't let go of the idea that, maybe I can get something out of it myself. Now, in this case, he does. The angel convinces him he was in the wrong, and he goes and he blesses Israel, declaring, What hath God wrought? And who can number Jacob? He blesses them and prophesies their success. And it seems at first like, here's another story with a happy ending. A prophet made a mistake, but it ended up okay. But that's not how the story with Balaam ends. Deep in his heart, he was still set on riches. All of these things that were promised him, the status, the wealth, that's what he wanted. And he came up with this idea that he could suggest to the enemies of Israel. You know how you can get past the protection that the Lord puts on them? You just get them to break the commandments. And he told them to send out these women as prostitutes to go and be with the Israelites. Untold grief that it caused. A lot of people had their lives really ruined by this. Ultimately, he gets killed in a battle with the Israelites. And that's important, that God was the one that held his prophet responsible. There's nowhere that we see in the scriptures where prophets never make mistakes. And in fact, as we look at the next idea of a fallible prophet, we'll look at Moses himself. Moses was not a perfect man. The wrath of God came upon him at various times. The Lord was nearly about to kill him before he even got to Egypt. And we talked about that previously, but it's important to know that it's okay that prophets aren't perfect. What is not okay is then the nature of some people, when they observe imperfect prophets, to view themselves as equal or even greater than prophets. And that's true whether this is thinking about President Nelson, President Monson, Brigham Young, Joseph Smith, or Moses. The same reasoning leads people to similar mistakes. And there are a couple of excellent examples that point to this in the book of Numbers. First, consider Miriam and Aaron. Here's some reading in Numbers 12. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And they said, Hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not spoken also by us? And the Lord heard it. Now, if we pause here, this criticism may have been correct. The Lord absolutely cared about marrying in the covenant, and it seemed that they were in the right, following the Lord's counsel. The Lord, however, spoke to them directly. If we continue reading, starting in verse 4, And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses, and unto Aaron, and unto Miriam, Come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And the three came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud, and stood in the door of the tabernacle, and called Aaron and Miriam. And they both came forth. And he said, Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I the Lord will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches, and the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. Okay, so if we think about what happened here, it didn't even matter if Miriam was right. Maybe Moses was in the wrong. It mattered how she received the prophet of God. He was meant to be more than just speak words of prophecy generally. He was meant to guide the people. He had been authorized by God to lead the people. And because she indulged in pride, to think that she was the same or better than the prophet, God cursed her with leprosy. Now Moses immediately pled with God to heal her, but God insisted that she wait at least 7 days before she could return to the congregation. And that's important because when God sends a prophet to his people, it doesn't matter that the prophet is imperfect. It matters how the people receive his message. One more example, consider Korah. Let's do some reading. This is in Numbers 16:3. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, Ye take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Wherefore then lift ye up yourselves above the congregation of the Lord. This reasoning that we see in Numbers 16:3, that's the same reasoning that we see in other people who have rejected prophets. Because we have personal revelation, we don't need prophetic revelation. If there's a conflict between what I think I should do and what the prophet thinks I should do, I should just follow myself because the prophet could be wrong. Essentially what they're doing, though, is commanding the prophets to prophesy not. This is not right. Moses knew it was not right. The Lord knew it was not right. deep down, you think, based on what happened, they knew it was not right. Let's continue our reading, starting in verse 28. And Moses said, Hereby ye shall know that the Lord hath sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of mine own hand, my own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then the Lord hath not sent me. But if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth, and swallow them up with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quickly into the pit, then ye shall understand that these men have provoked the Lord. And it came to pass, as he made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder under them, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from the congregation. And all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up also. And there came out a fire from the Lord, and consumed 250 men that offered incense. So that's Numbers 16, 28 through 35. The key here is the Lord is going to take care of his prophets. Now, not long after this event, the Lord commands the elders from each tribe to lay down their staves. These are just dead sticks. And the following morning, Aaron's rod budded and brought forth blossoms and almonds as a testament that God had chosen his line to have priesthood authority. And Aaron's rod that budded was kept in the Ark of the Covenant to be a perpetual testament to show that God was the one who led his congregation. He chooses his priests, he chooses his prophets, and people do not know better than he does. Now, God does not think any less of his modern prophets, and so we should be concerned about how we receive them and their counsel. Because if God truly leads his church, our words and actions should reflect our sustaining of God's choices above our own. Today we see that the demand for prophetic fallibility greatly exceeds the supply of it. People want the prophets to be fallible, to fail, so that they can follow their own will and pretend that it's just as valid. Gain the discipline to take prophetic counsel to heart. Seek the Lord and be humble enough to accept counsel that conflicts with your personal views. Know that anyone is capable of falling. It was true for Balaam. That's true for each of us. Every day, deliberately set your heart on what truly matters. Look to God and live. We appreciate all the support for the Word Preacher podcast. Next week, we'll be looking at the book of Deuteronomy and the end of Moses' mortal mission. Of course, there's a ton of stuff in Numbers that we did not have time to cover. Please study that. Read that individually and with your family. And of course, as always, fight on.